Welcome to the Car Guys, and this week a very exciting episode inside a car that's the same age as me. That's right, this week I am driving a BMW 3.0 CSL. It's a sunny day, this car is freshly restored, it's in perfect condition, the engine is as tight as it was when it left the factory. Today, my friends, is going to be a very good day. Welcome to this magnificently restored BMW 3.0 CSL, the famous E9 shape that originated back in 1963. 1,275 of these cars were made, 775 in left-hand drive and 500 in right-hand drive, from 1972 until 1975. This was to allow BMW to go touring car racing in the over 3-litre class. And it worked too, because CSLs won the European Touring Car Championship 6 times in 1973 and 1975 until 1979. But it was only the final version of the CSL that gained the famous Batmobile fixed rear wing. CSL stands for Coupe Sport Licht, or light, as in lightweight. But strangely, the 500 right-hand drive ones gained much of that weight back with the addition of electric windows, power steering, interior bonnet release, chrome front and rear bumpers, and soundproofing. This was marketed as the City package, and as a result, it weighs 1,270 kilograms, so not as licht as you'd think. The engine is a 3-litre straight 6 with Bosch fuel injection, giving just over 200 brake horsepower. 0 to 60 miles an hour is achieved in 6.9 seconds, and it's got a top speed of 137 miles an hour. Let's take a look at this timeless shape. It's painted in Polaris silver, and it's resplendent with chrome adornments and a crisp black CSL stripe. Just look at that sleek shape, those pillarless doors, the way the entire cabin can be opened up, little details like those black bonnet vents, Target BMW symbols on the flanks, those distinctive 4 headlights on the front end. And just look at the boot. If you want to see what a proper bare metal restoration looks like, it's fantastic. It comes on 14-inch BMW wheels with black centre caps and multi-spoke alloys. This example is currently for sale at Fast Classics for a not inconsiderable £180,000. Yes, that's how much a good one of these goes for these days. But that's enough stats, let's take it out for a drive. Yes, that's right, I can barely believe it myself. I am driving a car which is 48 years old. How do I know it's 48 years? Because it was made in 1972, the same year that I was born. This majestic beauty is, of course, a BMW 3.0 CSL. One of those very rare 1972 cars built specifically to homologate BMW for racing. Up ahead of me, and I can barely believe that I'm saying this, is a Porsche 911 993 GT2, one of 200 cars made, and another homologation special. So this week, we've gone homologated mad. I'm driving this car courtesy of my friends at Fast Classics. Now, it's fair to say that they have restored and sold more BMW CSLs than I think anyone else on the planet. They are absolute experts at this model, and this is freshly back, having been completely restored. The odometer reads 260 miles since the engine was completely refurbished. The bodywork is blemish-free. It is no understatement to say it is factory fresh. It is just like I picked this car up in Bavaria in 1972. Now, this is the first time I've ever driven an old BMW, and so my reactions are coming to you live and unfiltered. The first thing you notice is that the steering wheel is incredibly light, it's very thin, it's got leather on the outer, and it's got drilled metal on the inner, and driving it on these lovely country lanes, it's spectacular. Why don't all cars have thin steering wheels back again? Bring thin steering wheels back to modern cars is what I say. There's no airbag on this puppy. If we have a crash, this steering column is going straight into my chest cavity. I'm told when we press on, there's enough suspension stiffness for us to stay on the road and for it to be well controlled. But from where I'm sitting right now, it does feel very tall and very wallowy. The seats, which are part fabric inner and leather outer, are big and supportive and hugely chunky. So ahead of me I've got 4 instruments deeply set into a full actual real wood dashboard. I've got the speedometer, the rev counter. Over on the left I've got the fuel gauge and the engine temperature, and on the right I have an enormous analog clock. I have to confess, I'm such a big fan of having like proper real slabs of wood in cars. It's a real shame when they stopped doing that in the 80s. It looks like I've got an old stereogram in here with me, just great swathes of timber up ahead. You've got beautifully trimmed leather for the glove box with a grab handle on it. I really appreciate the fact that all the ventilation controls are in German, so it adds a little bit of exotica to this car. 70s style minimalist controls everywhere. It sort of feels like Dieter Rams created the interior of this car. It feels vintage and yet perfectly at home in 2021. This is stylish motoring like you wouldn't believe. Falling naturally to my left hand is a manual gearbox, 4-speed, you'll note, with no dogleg. And next to that we've got 4 electric window switches, because of course you can take down not just the windows here but the rear windows as well to open up the entire cabin, which is spectacular. There you go. So I'll put down new rubbers. I'll put that down. There you go. Can you see that? Look at that. Look at that. The whole side of the car is open to the elements. It is beautiful. What a car this is. The fact that it can do that really does elevate this above so many other cars. And also, because it's the 70s, the most important control in the car right here just next to me is of course the cigarette lighter. You've also got these quirky Wurlitzer knobs here, which opens up the quarter window so that you can smoke properly and the smoke is dispersed from the cabin as quickly as possible. I also love this. Look, that's right, ashtray. The old style ashtrays that you had where they were bolted to the door, flick out. Absolutely love that. The gearbox is light and easy to use. It changes gear willingly. There's no graunchiness at all. I am of course constantly trying to put it into 5th gear, so you've got to recalibrate your brain for that. And the steering is light and the engine revs really well. This is surely the perfect combination of old school looks but yet actually modern day practicality and reliability. Because it's a BMW made at the right time, you can be sure that if maintained properly, this car will never let you down. Sweeping through some bends now, starting to pick up the pace, just connecting those bends, sweeping along. It's such a lovely, nostalgic place to be. So elegant, and yet it packs the punch of that sportier 3-litre engine. Remember, the winged Batmobile versions of this car were ruling touring car throughout the 70s. Here we go, into some twisty bits. Pull it in. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's so nice. Really is. I'm going to go easy on this engine obviously because it is refurbished, so I'm not going to do too many high revs, but it is pulling well. In a sea of modern plastic Euro boxes that everything looks the same, they're all amorphous blobs designed to keep everything safe no matter what you do. It is so refreshing to drive a car built in an era where people didn't care about those things. All they cared about was whether they could make it look as cool as possible and go fast. And you've got to applaud it. I know it's a different age, and I know that we've in many cases grown up and become all sensible, and I know that if I have an accident in this car, I'm probably not going to come out of it very well. The brakes, I should point out, are not fantastic. They probably could do with a little bit more fettling, so I'm not sure I'd want to be doing 3 figures and then stamp on those anchors, but I don't think that's what this car is all about these days. Maybe you were racing around like your hair was on fire in the 70s, but these days this is such an elegant, appreciating, beautiful and valuable asset that I just think you need to take it easy. And the fact that you can bring down all the windows and you can cruise, plenty of room in the back for another 2 adults, and the view inside is every bit as good as the view outside. Now obviously this is the Car Guys, and therefore a certain amount of beans is required per episode. We've got to somehow maintain our beans quota. It does feel a bit wrong giving this car the full beans, but I think we should give it at least medium beans today, right now. Go. Oh, oh, oh yeah. Now, of course, by modern standards, this is not a quick car. Fortunately, it's not all about speed. I wouldn't expect this to keep up with a well-driven Ford Fiesta ST, but that is not the point. It is how it makes you feel, and it makes you feel like an absolute king. You've got a sort of deep-throated hum from the engine. You know it's there, you know it's something special. Changes gear so easily, it revs so really willingly, and we have two lovely pheasants fighting off against each other in the middle of the road. Lovely. This is everything that makes classic car motoring what it is. It is just perfect. Perfect day, perfect road, perfect car. One thing that is really impressing me about this car is at low down speed. You get none of that sort of transmission tramp or sort of juddering that you get in old cars. Even at the lowest speeds in, say, second, just pulls away cleanly and easily. You didn't get that with a lot of cars in the 80s and 90s, let alone the 70s. I mean, it feels like it's a modern car under here, and I guess there's no bigger compliment than that. I have to confess, I've always fancied driving one of these older era BMWs. I've heard so many good things about them, but I've never actually experienced them myself. Having owned quite a few cars, whoa, that's a big pothole. Woo! Having owned quite a few cars from the 80s and 90s, I sort of expected it to be like that, but actually, there's a sort of robustness, a solidity to this car that you just didn't get from the more mass market cars made 10, 20 years later. Everything is light and smooth and comfortable. The suspension is coping with all the bumps except the very biggest potholes. It's quite well controlled. The body roll is kept in check. And all the while you're ensconced in what is essentially a very well appointed gentleman's club. So there we are, guys. This is the BMW 3.0 CSL, a magical thing, something that transports you back to a more civilized age. But I have to say, I've absolutely loved my time in this car. I'm not sure whether I'd be prepared to pay the phenomenally high premiums that these cars currently command. I'm not sure I'm that much in love with it, but if you do have the funds, then I heartily encourage you to check it out. And if you're going to, Fast Classics is probably the best place to get one. Thanks for watching this episode with me in a BMW 3.0 CSL that's 48 years old, but absolutely fantastic. If you like what we're doing on The Car Guys, please subscribe, leave comments and likes. We read as many as possible and we reply to many of them. There'll be another Car Guys episode along next week.